Facilitating a discussion in a group with more than 8 people can easily become unproductive. These are the signs to look out for. Only a couple of people are talking most of the time while the rest are silent. The discussion keeps turning around the same points. The general energy in the room or in the call is going down. If you see any of the signs, know that you're losing a lot of valuable opinions and ideas. There are a few things you can do as quick solutions, like split the group into multiple teams or into pairs. Introduce an exercise instead of just having an open discussion. Change the questions you ask. Keep watching if you'd like to learn more concrete solutions to leading productive discussions with big groups. Hey, it's Daria here. Welcome. Let's help awesome teams run productive meetings with big groups of people. Well, what is a big group of people for a meeting? I believe that if it is not a presentation, as in if you want all of the participants to contribute, then more than 8 people is a big group. Yeah, I know it may not seem like a lot of people, but when it comes to creating an engaging discussion, it is, especially if it is a remote meeting. That's why, generally, you would want to have some kind of structure prepared to run the discussion, whether it's a sprint retrospective in a Scrum team or a product definition workshop with executives. Bigger meetings require bigger preparation, and it doesn't have to be a big complex topic that you're discussing in order to have to prepare for it. My favorite approaches to facilitating discussions with big groups come from the Liberating Structures. If you've never heard of that, here is what the creators of these concepts say about them. Liberating structures are easy to learn microstructures that enhance relational coordination and trust. They quickly foster lively participation in groups of any size, making it possible to truly include and unleash everyone. Liberating structures are a disruptive innovation that can replace more controlling or constraining approaches. Or in simple terms, by me, liberating structures are a set of exercises that you can use to facilitate discussions with small and big groups where every participant can easily share their opinions without feeling pushed, unnoticed, or judged. Keep watching as I'll share 4 exercises that will help you encourage collaboration in any meeting. I'll also be sharing how you can get your hands on easy-to-use instructions for these exercises, so don't miss out. Of course, having appropriate tools at your disposal will also make it easier to engage everyone in the discussion. For remote meetings, tools like Miro or Mural are great. I have some videos explaining how to use them and what perks each of them has. For in-person meetings, you will need some visual aid and a way for people to participate other than speaking. So it's best if you have a whiteboard space or a flip chart, as well as some sticky notes and Sharpies. Here are a few rules to always take into account when you're facilitating a discussion with big groups. First, open discussions just don't work for bigger groups of people, as they only allow the most extroverted and outspoken people to share. Second, the best conversations happen in small groups of maximum 5 people, and usually 3 people gives the most optimal results. Third, when you ask a question, it's important to allow everyone some time for individual reflection in silence before you start any discussion. Fourth, it's useful to have a few ways to ask the same questions to help people come up with new ideas. For example here, what important events happened this sprint that you'd like to discuss? And if people are struggling, you can also ask, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of the past sprint? Or what made you feel happy, mad, or sad? So let's get back to the liberating structures. To avoid repeating similar exercises, I have chosen 4 drastically different ones for you to try out. I also made sure that they don't seem touchy-feely, as I know many people have an allergy to that. Anyway, the 4 I chose are called 1-2 for all, shift and share, 25-10 crowdsourcing, and mad tea. Apart from one of them, each exercise can easily be used in both in-person and remote setting without too much need for modification. But I will share some of the solutions you can implement in order to transform an in-person exercise into a remote one. The first exercise is called 1-2 for all. This one is the simplest exercise you can do pretty much anytime you need to collect ideas from the whole group, no matter how many people you have. You start by asking your key question or prompt, like, what defines a great team? And then you give everyone a couple of minutes to think about this prompt, individually and in silence, and write down their ideas. Then you ask everyone to form pairs and spend 2 minutes sharing their ideas and adding some more ideas together. Then you ask pairs to join another pair to form a group of 4 and continue expanding the list. Once the final timer is finished, ask the whole group of participants to share their most essential ideas. The Liberating Structures website suggests to use the time boxes like that: 1 minute for individual reflection, 2 minutes for pairs, and 4 minutes for the groups of 4. But I believe that it makes sense to actually add a minute here or there to allow people just a little bit more time to reflect. For example, give people 2 minutes at the very beginning when they are thinking about it individually, and then maybe give them 3 minutes when they're working in a pair. Otherwise, people may feel a bit rushed and not actually come up with the best ideas they could have. If you don't have the right amount of participants to perfectly split them into pairs and groups of 4, it's fine. If you have way too many people for the last step with the whole group, when you discuss everything with the whole group, like you have 8 groups of 4 in the end, you may want to just collect the ideas yourself and categorize them, then highlight the ones you find the most prominent yourself. Why does this exercise actually work? Well, because every participant has enough time to think of their ideas on their own before having to share them. In addition, discussions in pairs will be much more productive than discussions with a big group, since there are only 2 people and it's easier for each person to have enough time to speak. The next exercise on our list is called Shift and Share. Over the years, I have adapted this exercise to make it simpler and also ready for remote discussions. It doesn't mean that you only have to use it in remote discussions. It works well in person as well. In this one, you split the group into small teams of 5 people or less and give them a problem to solve. Each team gets a different topic. This exercise works best when the participants are not just answering one question and when you have multiple things to cover in a shorter amount of time. For example, in a retrospective, you may use this to allow the group to work on resolving several issues, like one team will be working on finding solutions for the high amount of tech debt, another one on ineffective sprint reviews, and the third one on reducing the carryover. So it's not about answering one question, but it's really more about creating solutions and action plans. You give the teams enough time to work on the problem and prepare a small presentation. Like 8 or 10 minutes will be great. It's important to ask them to clearly document what they discuss and what decisions they make on a flip chart or a whiteboard. After that, you ask each team to briefly explain their train of thought and walk the rest of the group over their poster and presentation. Then you ask the groups to rotate and take over the poster and the problem from another group. And then you give them 5 more minutes to add their ideas and thoughts to it. They are free to make any changes. They may remove or maybe add something. Then you do the rotation again and give them another 5 minutes. That way, each team has a chance to work on multiple problems during that time, while also not working on them from scratch because they will be working off of the ideas created by the previous team. In the end, give the whole group some more time to review every poster and presentation, including the one they initially worked on, because it was changed by other teams, and then ask them to highlight the most important insights they got from it. This can then be shared as key takeaways on sticky notes or in a discussion. So why does this exercise work? Well, the teams working on each problem are small enough to allow every participant to contribute, contrary to a traditional open conversation approach. It also allows every participant to work on multiple topics during the meeting, but by limiting the time they spend on it, it helps keep everyone focused and on track. Just a heads up on how to get your hands on the instructions for the 5 exercises I share in this video. I will be sending my regular newsletter on Monday with all of the details in an easy-to-follow format that you will be able to print as well for reference. And if you're not yet signed up to my newsletter, do it now before I send out the email. The next exercise on our list is 25-10 crowdsourcing. This one is especially good in person and may not be as effective in a remote setting, as I mentioned at the beginning, but I'll give you an adaptation you can use. So this exercise is quite simple. Give every person one index card and ask them to write a single answer to a question. The question should be asking the most important or key item when it comes to a topic. For example, what is the most useful metric for Scrum teams to track? Once every person has written their answer, you ask them to walk around the room and exchange the cards with every person they cross paths with, without reading the card they've got. They should keep exchanging the cards until you say stop. At this point, they should read what's written on the card and give it points from 1 to 5. The more they agree with what is written, the higher their rating will be. So if they think that the metric they got on this card is the best one, they would put a 5 on this card. And then you do a couple of more exchanging rounds. Say you do 3 rounds in total. It means that there should be 3 numbers on each card, giving it from 1 to 5 points each. Now it's time to define which card is the winner. Every person sums up the votes on the cards they have currently in their hands. The maximum possible sum can be 15. 5 maximum points multiplied by 3 rounds that we did. And so the minimum amount of points would be 3 points, 1 point per round. You start with the highest rank and ask who has 15 points. If someone has a card that got 15 points in total, they can now read the card out loud. This is now the winner. So going back to our question at the beginning, this by far is seen as the most important metrics for Scrum teams to track based on what this group of people thinks. You can then ask a couple of more times who has 14 points, who has 13, who has 12. You don't have to go all the way to the bottom, as you want to only focus on the most valuable ideas, maybe about 3 or 5 maximum. In a remote setting, this exercise doesn't work exactly the same, and I usually run it very differently because people cannot actually physically exchange the cards they have. I ask a similar question, but I ask the participants to write down as many answers as they can in 1 minute. To continue with our metrics example, the question I may ask would be, what metrics can be important for a Scrum team to track? Once you have collected the answers, you need to do a very quick review and remove any duplicates. When you have your final list, you conduct a quick dot voting session. This allows you to highlight the most important answers that have been voted for by the group. Kind of similar to that in-person exercise, but maybe a bit less fun. Why does this exercise work? Every participant contributes to the pool of ideas, which gives everybody a voice. And then every participant has a say in what they believe is the most valuable through their votes. And that makes it easier for them to feel that they not only contributed, but also had a say in the final decision. And the last exercise on our list is Mad Tea. Why is it called that way? Because it is kind of based on the idea from Alice in the Wonderland, where they keep switching around and walking from one seat to the other very quickly. This is actually a liberating structure that you won't find on their website, as it is not an official one. And I'm actually wondering if it wasn't created by the liberators instead. But here I'd like to share my version that is a bit different from how we usually use it in our PSM2 classes. You will need to prepare a string of about 6 questions that build on top of each other, but you don't show those questions right away. It may also be statements with fill-in-the-blank space. Then you split the participants into pairs. You uncover questions one by one and give the pair a short time box, like 1 or 2 minutes, to know their answers. After the time box for one question finishes, you uncover the next question and start the timer again. This forces the participants to be very quick and focus on the first ideas they got, while also encouraging them to discuss it with their partner, not just think over it all by themselves. Because the questions build on top of each other, that allows each pair to tell a short story related to the topic to each other. I'm going to give you an example of a string of statements to fill in the blank, and you can actually participate with me if maybe you are watching this video with a team member, or answer those questions on your own too. That can be a good exercise for yourself. So the statements I have here are about building great teams. So 1, you know you're part of a great team when. 2, what allows great team to achieve higher results is. 3, the team will suffer if they don't. 4, what the team leader can do to help build a great team is. 5, what each team member can do to help build a great team is. And 6, what I will do to help my team to become great is. You can use the same formula for any topic to create your own string of fill-in-the-blank statements. Why does this exercise work? Well, same as all others, it gives every participant an opportunity to share their thoughts without feeling pushed or judged. Thanks to the short time boxes, it helps spark creativity and add a bit of fun into the exercise. It also requires participants to collaborate much more because of how the exercise is structured. So in this video, I've shared 4 great and simple exercises that you can use to create more engagement in any meeting you facilitate. They are especially useful for discussions with big groups, but you can use them in many situations with groups of different size. All of them share a few key elements. So first, they split the big group into small teams or pairs that encourages participation and reduces pressure from the people who are less outspoken. Then, these exercises give the participants more time to reflect and document their ideas. These exercises involve every single person into the conversation, whether through notes, voting, or presentation. And they also help you create content derived from the collective input that allows the group to surface less obvious opinions. When you are facilitating a group discussion, whether you use these concrete exercises or not, remember these key elements I mentioned, as this is what will allow you to create a more engaging and collaborative environment overall. Just a quick recap, the 4 liberating structures we've covered in this video are 1-2 for all, shift and share, 25-10 crowdsourcing, and MAD-T. Remember that I will be sharing some instructions in my upcoming newsletter of how to run these exercises, so make sure you are signed up before Monday. I hope you learned something new, and if you did, well, you know it already. Subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and comment down below. And I'll see you in the next video. Cheers and Scrum on!